Thank you, Cyberport, for having me again this year to give everyone an update about the VC activity. So before I dive into the actual statistics, it would be good to think about the global macroeconomic factors and how they're actually driving the business activity as well as investments. And some of these trends, and let's not forget that we're actually now into the 21st month since the WHO has announced the global pandemic. Some of these macro trends include the supply chain constraints. And I think this has started since the pandemic, but it continued to become a major issue for many of the companies, large or small, because of the high demand on transport, but at the same time, the increased costs on logistics. Then also the expectation to also streamline, right, having more digitized process when it comes to data. So another trend that you heard a lot from previous speakers is about ESG issues. And the pandemic did highlight and accelerated the awareness of ESG, especially now the COP26, for those who are following the news, that's just kicked off on Sunday. So ESG theme investments and activity has dominated a lot of the activity that I would cover in the following slides. Accelerated digitization. As we start working in the new normal, people working in different places and restriction on continue on traveling, company need to adopt their model to suit serve their customer, but also enable their teams to work better. So digitization continue to be key trends. Future of work. I highlighted here partly that will relate to health issues as well as how the kind of challenges that we're seeing globally when it comes to recruiting talent, but also providing the right environment for people to continue to work as collaboratively as well as productively. So last but not least is about health. While we seem to be living with COVID now, but pocket of cases still pop up here and there. And this prompted private and public sector continue to look at the resilience of our healthcare system and also the technology that can provide better and more personalized healthcare to the public. So all of these, including challenges as well as trends, actually shape some of the activities in the past year. Now let's take a look at the global VC investment activities. Very good news. You have heard good news from Cyberport about how they're doing on the fundraising. Globally, we're seeing a very good recovery since Q1 this year. And although the 2020 seems to have a bit of a disruption, the market has proven to be pretty resilient. So we have in Q3 reached about 171 billion of funding, and all the dollar term that I will talk about is all in US dollars. Some of the key themes is mega deal trends play a very key roles in all regions. And it's very good to know, not only America, not only in Asia, we also see mega deals in Europe. And fundraising activity and liquidity remain pretty strong. In terms of sectors, ESG and clean tech have topped some of the major deals in Q3 2021. Some examples such as the $2 billion raise by a US company called Generate. They're in alternative energy infrastructure. You also have a EV manufacturer, Rivian, raised $2 billion. Our China-based company, Asphalt, in energy storage, they raised $1.5 billion in this quarter. So ESG clean tech is definitely the theme here. Other hot sectors include FinTech, delivery, logistics, health and biotech, and some of the B2B services. As you can see, when I talk about these sectors, they mirror what I talked about the mega trends happening globally. So the performance metrics in terms of deal flow, in terms of also the medium deal size, they all perform pretty well globally. Now take a look at Asia. Asia following that similar trends. Also, although there was a little bit of a dip in Q2, but Q3 is recovering very nicely. And I also want to mention that the lines that are showing, so the bars are showing the figure. So in Q3, we have $48.1 billion raised, and probably second highest since 2018. And also what is good to see that is the trend is trending upward for all stages of funding, including angel, early, and later. Although I should mention that a lot of the deals are in the late stage. And also in Asia, in particular, we see a kind of a divergence of trends. When we talk about Asia, the biggest countries that contributed to VC activity are always just two, which is India and China. And the sectors that are performing well in India are very different from those that are in China, particularly because, as you would have read the past few months about the regulatory changes in China. So in India, we see FinTech and AgTech are actually doing quite well, whereas in China, you continue to see the ESG, clean tech, hardware, and the healthcare sectors are doing well. So you see a bit of a different directions. So this reflects that the healthcare services systems are doing quite well, and you can see that increase in funding. Other sectors remain pretty dominant, including the TMT sector, the pharma and biotech, as well as the consumer sector. Interesting that is the energy sector at the very bottom, although it's very tiny, but it actually represents some increased interest in, we call it the clean tech. So I just want to put side by side between global VC investment deal stage versus Asia. The reason I bring back global when I talk about Asia is that earlier on I talk about the deal stage, right? Investment in the angel seed stage, early stage, and also later VC stage. Globally, actually, there's a bit of a dip in Q3. Even though overall fundraising increased, the number of deals have come down across the board. But when you extract the Asia data, is actually a lot more promising and positive, the outlook, because you see that all stages in funding is actually trending up, pretty healthy trend. So this actually a very good sign, especially that actually supported why ESG theme investment will be a key trend to stay, because most of the ESG investment at the current stage is all about new technology, is pretty early stage and require a lot of risk capital. One other thing that I want to highlight is corporate participation. Corporate VC always have been pretty dominant in Asia. Overall corporate investment, corporate VC investment globally have increased, but in Asia, you see that trends is also doing very well. 60% of the overall VC investment in Asia is actually coming from corporate. So it's good to understand that a lot of the conglomerates in both India and China, two major markets, invest heavily in venture deals, as well as making acquisitions. Now let's zoom into China. So I earlier on mentioned that the trend in China is a little bit different from India. So in China, there is a bit of I would say, softening in the deal activity when you look at Q1 versus Q2, because that's when a lot of the new changes on regulation was made. However, I think the investors are now coming back and having a bit of a recovery now. So it's good to see that trend. So in Q3, raised $25 billion across over 1,400 deals. Some of the key deals that we've seen is in 5G technology and also consumer tech, and also, again, hardware and new materials. So these are the kind of the, I would say, sector that are more favored by investor in this region. So again, this is the similar sector allocation. One thing I want to mention that it wasn't mentioned earlier in the top deal is that healthcare also continue to remain very strong, and at the same time, green tech consumer markets. So we believe that that trend will continue. Hong Kong is very important, right, in contributing to the growth and investment in the healthcare sector. So we heard all the good news about the Cyberport success in raising money for our startup. I thought I will show the Hong Kong VC performance. It might not have captured the government funding, but nonetheless is a good reference point. It's not in a global report, but I thought for this audience, so we pick out the Hong Kong numbers. So Hong Kong actually has reached record high when it comes to year-to-date fundraising. Well, Q1 to Q3 is about 1.7 billion. It's very good to hear. We also have seen pretty sizable deals that has been recorded in Q3 in the healthcare sector, the biotech sector, as well as the consumer sector like Klook. So just a quick recap. I gave a lot of data, but what are some of the top deals in Asia? Flipkart in India, Baiju also in AgTech also in India. So India has dominated the deals, the top two deals. And then you got China in energy storage, asphalt. All the other ones, the rest of those top deals spread across logistic, mobility, biotech, as well as hardware. We don't talk about, we talk about the VC market about Hong Kong, but it won't be a complete picture without mentioning in Asia, the IPO market is also a really strong driving force for the VC activity. We often look at the IPO market as a way how it could actually incentivize some of the late-stage investment. And I mentioned that because the mega deals happen also because of very vibrant IPO market. So here's just a quick overview about the Asia market. In China, year-to-date 9 months, raised $376 billion fund. So we believe the China IPO fundraise for this year likely going to be one of the top 3 globally. US probably will continue to be the top fundraising location, but I think China will be among the top 3. And some of the sectors is continue to be similar to what we've seen in the VC activity. TMT, the hardware, the healthcare. Quick overview about Hong Kong. Hong Kong also is doing very well. We hope that it can make to a top 3, but if not, it will still be among the top 5 because the US IPO market has been really strong this year. So Hong Kong raised $288 billion. This is Hong Kong dollars. TMT sector, healthcare sector. On the right-hand side, I specifically split the two kind of groups because Hong Kong about 2018 introduced the new regime, right, to welcome some of the pre-revenue biotech company to list in Hong Kong. So we've been keeping track of how much that has drawn not only biotech company, but also technology company and healthcare to Hong Kong for listing. So you can see that now 59% of the IPO fundraise in Hong Kong is coming from, we call the new economy sectors. So that should be very good news for the VC investors as well as the startup, because that means that there's a strong demand for innovative companies. So with that, I'm gonna have a conclusion on some of the key trends to watch. A lot of this is to recap what I earlier mentioned. Looking at the last quarter of 2021 as well as 2022, globally, we think that FinTech, health and biotech, B2B service because of digitization, logistic and delivery because of the constraint on supply chain. They will they'll continue to be very attractive areas. Investor interest in ESG because of regulations, also because the high awareness on climate risk, social risk, will help drive opportunities for VC and start investors into those areas. Looking at Asia, the overall pipelines are pretty strong. One thing I forgot to mention when we talk about the top deals in Asia, Singapore is showing up in one of the top 10 deals. We haven't seen that in the past. So it looks like different countries within Asia are actually having pretty strong pipeline of unicorns and companies. So we believe that that trend will continue. Looking at China, healthcare, clean tech, consumer market, hardware, as I mentioned. For Hong Kong, if I could mention that IPO market, yes, expected to continue to be very vibrant. For those who are following the upcoming changes, SPAC listing has been a pretty strong fundraising vehicle in the US market. We expect the SPAC regime will come to Hong Kong next year. I think the consultation will come out this month. So we'll see how much it can actually draw funding from this region, but I think that is a very good move from the exchange. So with that, plus the ESG investing also will drive the Hong Kong activity. So I hope you find this sharing useful. There are these two reports, and if you want to read more about the details of the VC activity up to Q3, feel free to scan the QR code. And you can also reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you.